Imagine just, going about your day, maybe heading to the store, catching a flight, or just walking into your own home after work. Things we do all the time, right? But what if underneath that ordinary surface, someone was watching? What if a casual glance turned into, well, a deep-seated obsession? Someone planning, waiting, turning your everyday life into, frankly, a nightmare. Today, we're not just telling scary stories. We're taking a deep dive into some true accounts of obsession and stalking. These aren't just anecdotes. They really open a window onto how this kind of unwanted attention works and the huge, often permanent impact it has on the people targeted.
And these stories, they really do underscore how fragile our sense of safety can be. It's quite startling how easily those personal boundaries we rely on can be violated, often with consequences that just ripple outwards, affecting someone for years. It shows how danger can really spring from seemingly innocent everyday encounters.
Yeah, it's chilling. Our first account takes us to rural Western Virginia back in the summer of 2012. We're hearing from someone who was 17 at the time, working her first job at a general store in a pretty quiet mountain community. It was mostly peaceful, she says, until this one man walked in. She described him as, well, a really big guy, sort of a mountain man type, she called him, probably late 40s, early 50s, around 6'5", maybe 280 pounds, looked dirty, clothes were tattered, long beard, like the woodsy hermit types you might expect to see occasionally in that area. He bought a few things, like some handmade soap, but at the register, he just stared at her, really intense, unsettling silence. Then he starts asking these odd questions, like, did you make this soap, and do you cook too? And then it gets really alarming. He says, I bet the boys around here are itching to marry you. Quite the first impression.
Right. And you see the red flags immediately, don't you? In his language. It goes from a simple question about soap to asking about her domestic skills, and then bang straight into objectification with that comment about birthing hips. It's a rapid escalation. This kind of behavior often points towards what we call a simple obsessional flocker. Usually someone the victim knows distantly, maybe just through brief interactions like this, but they quickly start crossing boundaries.
That makes sense. And it escalated, didn't it? This wasn't a one-off encounter.
No, exactly. Stalking is about patterns.
He started showing up more often. His comments got more persistent. Things like wanting a woman like me around who could make nice things and cook his kills. He started inviting her out, fishing, hunting, back to his cabin. She always said no, politely, but he just got more insistent. It made her really uncomfortable. Her boss even noticed and started trying to handle his transactions to, create some distance. But it all came to a head one night. She was closing up, alone. It was late. Her old blue pickup truck was the only car left in the lot, except for another blue pickup, identical, that she recognized as his. Her heart just started pounding. She did the smart thing, checked her back seat, locked the doors, then tried to start the engine. But nothing. Just sputtering. Dead. Then, this loud banging on her driver's side window, it was him. Grinning, she said. You could see his missing teeth. He asks, need some help. She tried to bluff, said her dad was on his way, but he knew. He just said, no, he's not. Open the door. She's trying to call 911, screaming at him, but he keeps yanking at the door handle. Then he stops, walks back to his truck. She maybe feels a tiny bit of hope, but no. He comes back. This time, he has a crowbar.
And that sequence, it's just chillingly premeditated. Sabotaging the car, knowing she'd be isolated, then returning with a weapon. It shows clear intent to, isolate and terrorize her. He turned an everyday tool into something menacing. It demonstrates that shift from maybe delusional thinking to active, calculated steps towards harm, a complete disregard for her safety.
Just pure terror. He starts swinging the crowbar at her window. She ducks down, covering her neck, hears the glass crack, but then suddenly she hears other voices, male voices, shouting at him. 2 guests from a nearby resort had driven up. They had a shotgun, saw what was happening, recognized her car, and scared him off. They rescued her. The police got there fast, arrested him. A few weeks later, she found out the whole story. He had a history of mental illness, had been in and out of institutions, wasn't taking his medication, and the police, they found a journal in his cabin. He mentioned her in it, my name, extensively. Her cousin, who was a police officer, gave her some details, filtering out the worst bits, but said the man had laid out a, quote, detailed plan to abduct me, starting with sabotaging her car to make her vulnerable.
Wow. That just powerfully underscores the need to trust your intuition, doesn't it? Her initial discomfort, that feeling of being unsafe, it was absolutely valid. It's a really stark reminder that if something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. And getting help, even if other people initially dismiss your concerns, can be absolutely crucial. It can save your life.
Definitely. Then let's shift gears. From the isolated mountains to a place you'd think is maybe more secure, but just as confined. An airplane. This story comes from a young woman flying from LA to Dallas, connecting to Austin. She'd been at a music festival, was exhausted, a bit hungover, just wanted to sleep on the flight. She gets her window seat. Next to her in the aisle seat is a middle-aged woman. She described her as totally unremarkable, like an average Texan mom. They exchanged a few polite words, then the narrator put her headphones on, ready to check out. But during her movie, she keeps noticing the woman trying to peek at her screen, muttering things like, "Oh, great, just ignore me." She also saw her frantically scribbling in the margins of an old AA book, just unintelligible chicken scratch. The narrator kind of brushed it off, figured the woman had some issues, and mostly ignored her.
Well, and that's common, isn't it? We often let our guard down in those kinds of public but confined spaces, like on a plane or a train. We're sort of conditioned to tolerate eccentricity, maybe? Makes it really hard to tell the difference between someone who's just a bit odd and someone who might actually pose a threat, especially when you're tired and just want to be left alone.
Exactly. So she falls asleep, wakes up, and they're landing in Dallas. People start getting off, but the woman in the aisle seat, she's not moving, not packing up, nothing. When it's her turn to get out, the woman doesn't budge. The narrator says, "Hey, I've got a connection, got to get moving." The woman just laughs, shakes her head, and says, "Oh, no, you're not going anywhere." The narrator's confused, insists, "Yes, I am. I'm getting off this plane." And that's when the woman drops this bombshell. "But you promised me you would never leave me now." What the? This narrator just edges past her, saying, "I definitely never said that. I'm leaving." As she gets into the aisle, the woman stands up right behind her, leaves everything, her purse, the book, all her stuff, right there on the seat, and follows her down the jet bridge, through the terminal, up the escalators. This woman is right on her heels. Grinning, the narrator said, like a madwoman. She's walking fast, trying to lose her, but the woman just stays right there, a constant shadow. It gets even worse on the monorail to the next terminal. The stalker slides into the seat right next to her, still with that grin. The narrator asks her, "Seriously, why are you following me?" The response, "Because I love you and you promised me you would never be apart from me." The narrator tries to laugh it off nervously, says loudly to other passengers, "No, I did not promise that. I don't even know who you are." On the train, the woman tries to hold her hand. The narrator described her eyes as completely vacant, just emptiness in her stare, not blinking, just that fixed grin. She was absolutely terrified now, texting a friend, but her phone died. She asked other passengers for help, for security, anything, but nobody responded. Just silence. She said it made her feel like she was the crazy one.
Oh, that's awful. The psychological pressure in that situation must be immense. Being trapped publicly with someone delusional and then feeling completely ignored or dismissed when you cry out for help, it's incredibly isolating. It amplifies the threat because you feel like there's no escape, no support. It's like a double violation, the stalker's actions and then the perceived indifference of everyone around you.
She finally makes it to her gate, practically running. The woman's still right behind her, saying things like, "You can't get away from me this time." She sees someone who looks like security, but they just shake their head. Desperate, she runs up to the gate agents, blurts out, "Hi, this woman right next to me, I have no idea who she is. She's been following me." The agents initially kind of laugh it off, say something like, "Long vacation, huh?" The stalker even laughs along with them, rolls her eyes. But then the agents must have seen the pure panic on the narrator's face. They immediately pulled her through a side door, slammed it shut, and got her onto her connecting flight. About 10 minutes later, a man sitting behind her leans forward and tells her what happened after she boarded. He said she had a complete and total meltdown the second you got on this plane. Screaming, tearing her hair out, pounding her feet. They took her away in handcuffs. And to this day, the narrator has no clue who that woman was or why she believed this promise existed. Just this deeply unsettling, unresolved mystery. Okay, let's rewind a bit now, go back maybe over 20 years, to coastal Western Australia. This next story actually happened to our narrator's mother before the narrator was even born. Her mom used to work late shifts at a pub, mostly fishermen there, so she knew the regulars. But there was this one guy, someone she recognized from house parties, who kept trying to chat her up while she was working. She just politely brushed him off. So one night, finishes her shift around midnight, starts the walk home, just a few kilometers. She lived in a house with several male friends, good mates. She figured they were all asleep. When she gets home, she notices her bedroom door is open. Usually she kept it shut. She didn't think much of it, maybe the wind, took a shower, got into bed. But then she just got this feeling. Something wasn't right. She couldn't explain why, but she felt this strong urge to look under her bed.
That feeling. It's so primal, isn't it? The fear of your home being invaded. And when the intruder turns out to be someone you actually know, even slightly, it just shatters your sense of security in a fundamental way. your safe space, your sanctuary, suddenly becomes the source of dread. It makes you question everything, every interaction.
And what she saw under there? Absolutely terrifying. It was him. The guy from the bar, the one who kept trying to talk to her. Just lying there, motionless, almost like he wasn't breathing. She actually thought for a second maybe he was dead. He'd followed her all the way home. But her reaction was incredibly calm, really quick thinking. She didn't scream. She quietly slipped out of her room when woke up one of her housemates, told him she thought there was, quote, a dead body under her bed. He grabbed another housemate, they got baseball bats and ran into her room. By then, the guy was already halfway out the window trying to escape. He scrambled out and ran off into the night. They called the police, of course. And because they all knew who he was, the police picked him up the next day. Her mom's biggest question still was what exactly he intended to do that night. The legal outcome. Just a fine, and he was banned from town. Her mom always felt that was, well, too soft.
You can understand why she'd feel that way. It's not just trespassing. It's an incredibly intimate violation. Someone you recognize, hiding in your bedroom. The psychological impact of that, the breach of trust and safety, it's immense. It often leaves victims feeling like the justice system just doesn't grasp the true severity of that kind of intimate stalking act.
Yeah, truly disturbing. Okay, our next story deals with something maybe even more insidious. Long-term obsession. This one started when the narrator was only 3 years old. She, her mom, and her stepdad had just moved into what she called a shady neighborhood. She made friends with 2 girls next door, Sam and Alex, but their Aunt Linda was always around. She describes Linda vividly. Short, overweight, yellow teeth, thin, wiry hair, even had a fake eyeball. Always smelled like cigarettes and body odor. The narrator just did not like her, even as a toddler. Linda would approach the narrator constantly when she was playing at the friend's house, asking questions, always about her mom. How was she? Was her marriage okay? Did she need help with anything? Really persistent, intrusive stuff. The narrator would try to ignore her or leave, but Linda would just keep prying. She gave off such unsettling vibes, the narrator said, that often she'd just give up and go home. After a couple of years, her mom actually forbade her from going over there if Linda was visiting.
That's such a classic pattern, isn't it? The boundary testing. It often starts seemingly innocuously, maybe framed as simple concern or neighborliness. But it gradually becomes more aggressive, more personal. And the target, or even bystanders, might doubt their own feelings, thinking, oh, maybe I'm overreacting. But those persistent, intrusive questions, especially focused on one person, that's a huge red flag for developing obsession.
And it certainly escalated here. One day, seemingly out of the blue, the family just packed up everything and moved, really quickly, to a bigger house across town. The narrator was young, confused, didn't understand why they were moving so suddenly. It was only years later that her mom told her the real reason. Linda was, in her words, downright obsessed with her mom. It was constant surveillance. Linda would ask other neighbors where her mom was. She'd just stand outside their house and stare into the windows, even into the narrator's bedroom window while she was sleeping. Her mom would sometimes find Linda just standing in their yard, staring. There were endless phone calls from blocked numbers, always asking for her mom. Linda followed her mom to work, to the store, everywhere, almost every fucking day, apparently, begging her mom to leave the narrator's stepdad and be with her instead. She'd try to manipulate her, saying they were meant to be, trying to get her to go out for dinner. Security at her mom's workplace actually had to escort Linda out multiple times. Sometimes Linda would do things like take their trash cans out or mow their lawn, then point it out, smiling like, see what I did for you. She even made up a story once about Sam and Alex's mom having a stroke, trying to lure her mom over to Linda's house immediately. And if her mom wasn't the target, Linda would go after the stepdad. Really explicit, violent threats. Things like, your wife doesn't love you, she loves me, I'll kill you if you don't leave her. The narrator also remembers playing on a trampoline at Linda's house once, looking towards the back door and seeing Linda just watching her through the blinds the entire time. Linda would also make creepy comments to her, like she looked extra pretty that day.
This sounds very much like erotomania, or a similar delusional obsession. The stalker genuinely believes there's a relationship, often a romantic one, with the victim, despite all evidence to the contrary. They interpret everything through that delusional lens. Rejection might be seen as playing hard to get, indifference is secret affection, and it makes them incredibly persistent, often resistant to any reasoning or even legal consequences. The threats against the stepfather are also typical eliminating perceived rivals for the victim's affection, driven by this powerful fantasy.
Just horrifying. And the impact lasts. Even almost a decade after they moved, Linda would still occasionally drive by their house, still make calls. It's this constant, low-level threat that never fully disappears. It even affected the narrator's friendships with Sam and Alex.
Absolutely. That kind of sustained long-term stalking exacts a terrible psychological toll. It erodes your sense of safety, your trust in people, even your connection to your own past. It's like living under siege, never knowing when the next intrusion will happen. It fundamentally changes how you navigate the world.
Okay, one final account. This one involves a female college student. She had unusual hours, so she often made late-night runs to a local gas station, a Sheetz, for food. Felt pretty safe in the town. It was just a routine thing. She started noticing one employee who worked the late shift register, friendly enough, but maybe, overly talkative, always asking random questions that seemed to go on a bit too long about her ripped jeans or a can of soda she bought. Mundane stuff. The narrator just figured the employee was bored, trying to kill time on a slow shift. Didn't think much of it.
But from the stalker's perspective, those seemingly minor interactions can be incredibly significant. They're observing, cataloging details, building this distorted narrative in their head where these small exchanges have deep meaning. The victim is often completely unaware they're being studied like this, that these casual chats are feeding an obsession.
Exactly. And that eerie sense of normalcy continued right up until one night. She got back to her apartment, third floor, quiet building, just one neighbor across the hall. She's eating, editing videos, and she hears footsteps coming up the stairs. But they don't go to the neighbor's door. They stop right outside hers. Her cat, which was usually playful, suddenly goes silent, starts aggressively sniffing and digging at the carpet right by the door. Then she sees shadows under the door. Feet. Just standing there. Nobody knocks. She thinks, okay, this is weird. Maybe I'll just crack the door open, satisfy the cat, see what's up. She wasn't really expecting anything. Big mistake. The second she opened the door, the Sheetz employee violently shoved it open the rest of the way. Forced herself past the narrator, ran straight down the hall into the narrator's bedroom, and slammed the door shut, locking it from the inside.
Oh my God, the sheer terror of that. Having your home, your most private space, your bedroom, breached like that. So suddenly, so violently. It's a fundamental violation. That immediate, visceral threat of an intruder in your sanctuary. It's unimaginable. The feeling of being trapped, cornered in the one place you're supposed to be safest.
She was in shock. Grabbed her brother's baseball bat, but then heard her neighbors. That snapped her back. She ran across the hall, shaking, told them what happened. They called the police. It took the police about 20 minutes to arrive and get into the locked bedroom, and what they found inside, it just chilled the narrator to the bone. They found a whole stash of pictures, at least 10 candid pictures of the narrator, photos of her walking into the Sheetz, ordering food, even going into the store's bathroom, all printed out on cheap paper. But here's the really disturbing part. Some of those photos were dated from weeks before she even remembered having a real conversation with the employee, weeks before that employee was even working the register regularly. This wasn't recent. This was long-term hidden surveillance, and it gets worse. Along with the photos, the police found bottles of wine, flowers, and rope. The implication was terrifyingly clear. This wasn't just watching. This was a premeditated plan, something far more sinister than just obsession. It left the narrator reeling, wondering what exactly would have happened if she hadn't opened that door.
That discovery, realizing you've been watched, documented for weeks or months without knowing. It's a profound shock to the system. It forces you to completely reevaluate everything. Every past interaction, every moment you felt safe. You realize you were unknowingly cast in someone else's terrifying narrative. That realization can create deep-seated paranoia and fundamentally alter your sense of reality and safety forever. Finding items like rope, it just confirmed the absolute worst fears about the stalker's intentions. Looking back at all these stories, the common threads are just stark, aren't they? The absolute violation of safety and privacy. The way minor discomfort can just chillingly escalate into real terror. And in every single case, the victims' lives are changed forever. It really hammers home how vital it is to recognize those early red flags, however small they seem, and to absolutely trust your instincts. That gut feeling is so often your first, maybe your only real warning.
It really is unsettling. It reminds you that sometimes the most terrifying things aren't ghosts or monsters, but, well, the dark potential within human obsession. These accounts, as disturbing as they are, they're powerful lessons in just being aware, being vigilant. So it leaves you with thought, doesn't it? In our world, full of fleeting connections, casual interactions, how do you tell the difference? How do you spot that first subtle sign of an unhealthy, unwelcome fixation? What tiny detail from your own day might look completely different, terrifyingly different, through someone else's obsessed eyes? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these really unsettling true stories. We hope you found it, well, insightful, even if disturbing. If you value these kinds of explorations into the darker side of human experience, please do give us a like, maybe share this with someone, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docx. We'll have more deep dives coming soon. Stay safe out there, stay vigilant.